Well, hello and welcome to another edition of the Stogie video review. I am Walt White, and this is another short ashes review. This time I have a variation of what I was intending on smoking, and it is the CAO Brazilia. This is the goal size, and I say it's a variation on what I was planning on smoking because I wanted to do the box press. A little while back I was at a CAO event, and I picked up two box pressed Brazilias. I didn't know if there was a blend change, so I picked up two so I could just smoke one and see what it was all about. And if it was different, I would know to go get more. If not, I would just smoke the other one as a short ashes review. Well, last night, the sky was kind of getting dark. We were waiting for a thunderstorm to roll in, but I lit up the CAO box press outside and just sort of hung out. And it never did rain, and really enjoyed it. And even though the skies were dark, the temperature and humidity were comfortable. So all in all, it was a positive experience all the way around. And then this morning, I was going to light up my last one, but I couldn't find it. I'm not sure what I did with it, but I was digging around the cooler and I came across a goal size that I don't know where it came from. Obviously, I purchased it from my local cigar shop because there was a little G on the cellophane where he marks what size the cigar is. So I knew where it came from. I'm not quite sure how old it is. I can't imagine it's too old. And so we'll get this thing underway. First and foremost, it's a very dark cigar. It's got a very oily appearance, which is very nice. There are a handful of veins throughout the cigar. They're not protruding too much, but they do add a little bit of a feel to the texture. There's a slight bit of lumpiness where the veins are. The interesting thing is they're really fine, and where they protrude is very fine. So it's like a little ridge. Just giving it a squeeze, and I'm not finding one soft spot. Spoke too soon. So there's one soft spot in the cigar. It doesn't have much aroma. So let's go ahead and get this thing lit. Now, as I mentioned, this is the goal size, and I'm going completely off memory here, but I think there's a 54 by 5. And if that is the case, it's like an extra large Robusto, or a double Robusto, or Robusto Larga, depending on what company is naming it. And I am pairing this up with coffee this morning. So the reason I picked up the box pressed while I was at the event is because I keep hearing things about how good the MX2 box pressed is. And I think the Italia is even available in box press, and I keep hearing how good the cigars are, and I've just been kind of interested in why all of a sudden we're hearing about how good these box press cigars are. Is the blend just better in that shape? Did they tweak the blend a little bit for the box press, or what's going on? So I picked one up and gave it a shot. It's been a little while since I had one, or had a CAO Brazilia aside from that box press, so I really don't know what to compare it to. At least with the goal, I'll be able to backwards compare it to the box press I had last night. And it looks like my torch is going to run out of butane before I get this thing lit. And I don't have another one close, just a can of butane. Alright, my cigar is lit. Not evenly though. And it's producing smoke. It's got some nice density to it. But there's the intro. So I'm going to refill my lighter, finish lighting my cigar. I'll be back in just a couple of seconds. We'll take a look at the first third and see how the CAO Brazilia goes. Alright, well, welcome back. I'm plugging away on my CAO Brazilia and having a little bit of trouble with it. As you can see, the burn line is not bad. There's a little bit of wave to it. It's pretty thin. Ash color is fairly light. It's nice and strong, has a nice compacted shape to it. It holds on real well, about an inch, and then you need to forcibly knock it off the cigar. Actually, it didn't even quite break off completely. I just sort of rolled it around in the ashtray to clean the end off. And it may even have gotten longer, but I let the cigar sit a little bit too long. It was starting to go out. And I seem to be running into that issue a lot. Actually, I was just kind of staring down the foot, and that kind of explains where my issue is coming from. Let's see if I can show you. You see that hole in there? It seems as though I'm getting more air than smoke. The density of the smoke has reduced dramatically, and so has the flavor. You know, it because the smoke is less dense and more airy. It really seems to be hitting the palate less than it was earlier on. Before I started running into this draw issue, I was getting lots of smoke, very dense, very creamy, very rich, just sort of coffee and chocolatey like flavors. Now again, I'm drinking coffee, so you know, the coffee flavor could be the aftermath of my Black Dog coffee. But a very rich cigar, very enjoyable. It's got a little bit of pepper through the sinuses, but nice and smooth. It's about 10 o'clock now. I think I started about 9, so I've probably been at this for about an hour. But first cigar of the day, and it's not overwhelming. Not even in the slightest bit. I don't feel any sort of a nicotine sickness coming on. My palate doesn't feel washed out and just overwhelmed by the body of the cigar, which is probably medium. And the finish is pretty smooth, nice and creamy. However, at this point, it's really tapering off, just because I'm not getting that same flavor impact, that same body impact. Just the cigar isn't coming together when the smoke isn't very dense. Now, I don't know, you know, I really don't know what these holes are from. They're obviously not from beetles, because I don't have the little creature running out and screaming. But in all seriousness, it's as if the cigar is bunched, and there's just the way it's bunched, there's like a void that's left in the cigar in spots. I've had some cigars where when you pick up the cigar, you can look at the foot and see the start of one. When you clip the head, you can see the other end. So I've seen some extreme cases, and in others I've seen just that, this little hole that may last an inch, maybe it'll last an inch and a half, may even get bigger and go through the remainder of the cigar. But typically I burn through them when I come on them like this, because I don't see any signs of that hole in the head. So I'm hoping I'm going to burn through it, and the cigar goes back to being normal, and I get just as much enjoyment out of it as I did earlier on. But again, at this point it's just kind of a dud, and I'm just waiting for this issue to fizzle out and the cigar to start back up again. So while I do that, I'm going to get back to watching episode 3 of Mental on Hulu. It's a show that started after the House season ended, and there are a lot of similarities in the show. At first, the pilot was just screamed House, but since House is over for the season, I needed something else to entertain myself with. So I'm checking it out on episode 3, and about halfway through it. So I'm going to get back to watching the show, and I'll be back in just a few seconds. We'll take a look at the second, third, and see if I can burn through that little bit of an issue that I'm having. Alright, well, I'm back, and I'm still having a little bit of an issue. I wasn't just a minute ago. It seemed as if I burned through that little bit of a void that was in the filler, and cigar got really dense and flavorful again, but now we're right back where we started. It looks like I've got another hole developing or there. I'm not quite sure, but the smoke is very airy, and not all that great. There just isn't enough flavor intensity. When I get a full mouthful of dense smoke, the cigar is fantastic. You know, I'm really enjoying it. It goes excellent with my coffee. But when I hit this sort of speed bump and I get an airy smoke, it's almost flavorless. There's a little bit of harshness to it. The cigar actually is beginning to feel hot a little ways behind the burn line. It's as if there's a hole. It's as if that hole is like superheating the air or something that's coming through the cigar, and it's warming up the whole thing. When you try to smoke slower to keep the cigar cooler, it goes out. So I'm really fighting an uphill battle. I've got to puff on the cigar enough to keep it lit, but try to not puff so much that the cigar gets warm. And I'm losing out on that. I'm losing out here. So this cigar actually may be cut short, depending on whether or not I can burn through this issue that I'm having. It seems to be off and on throughout the cigar, which is kind of unfortunate. When it's on, the cigar is really on. The flavors are very dense, very rich. Getting a peppery sensation through the nose, chocolatey flavors on the palate, more like a bitter chocolate. Some coffee notes. I don't know whether it's my actual coffee or the cigar, but all in all, I mean, all the flavors are coming together. It's very enjoyable. It's got a very rich tobacco flavor to it, and very pleasant. Not overwhelming. Again, medium body. I mean, I don't know that I would go as far as considering it medium to full, but medium body at this point. Flavor level would probably be, when it's on, medium to full flavored. When it's off, mild flavored. And the finish is smooth. I'm getting a nice creamy texture from the cigar. It's not offensive. It's not irritating my throat, my eyes, my nose, none of that stuff. The burn rate seems, I don't know, it's been about a half an hour since I had the camera on last, and I'm not a whole lot further along. The issue I'm having with the smoke volume seems to have a direct effect at just how fast the cigar is smoking. When I run into an issue like this, obviously I'm puffing the cigar a little slower. It burns slower. When I'm not having that issue, the cigar burns a little faster. So it's tough to say whether or not it's on par with other cigars of its size, or if it's burning fast, it's burning slow, because it seems to be on and off. I'm just getting issues throughout. So I don't want to go into it much further than that, because I want to try to come back one more time, wrap it up, and then compare it to the box press that I had last night, which is going to be tough if I keep running into these issues where the flavor seems to be on and off, as well as the draw being on and off. But on a side note, just finished up my the show I was watching on Hulu. I got a fresh cup of coffee. Maybe I'll do a little posting on the forums, kill a little bit more time while I enjoy my cigar, and then I'm off to do some yard work, so some stuff outside to do. So maybe I'll do a post the yard work short ashes review from the picnic table if it doesn't start raining. So sit tight, I'll be back. We'll do the final third, wrap the cigar up, and I'll let you run your way. Alright, well, I am back, and it's time to wrap up my CAO Brazilia goal. And unfortunately, I really don't have much better things to tell you. Shortly after I turned the camera off, flavors came back, lots of smoke density, real good. And then, I don't know, half a dozen puffs go by, and we're right back to very airy, flavorless smoke that's getting very harsh, and it's actually getting very hot on my fingers. See if I can do this without burning myself. But you can see that hole, again, looks like it's in a new spot. It may have been just an extension of the original, or, I don't know, a new one. I don't know. That's the start of what I was seeing when I had the camera on last. It's been about another 20 minutes. I'm not very far into the cigar since then. It's smoking very slow. I'm barely getting any smoke out of it. It's very unenjoyable, very uneventful, and it's a shame. I mean, the box press Brazilia I had last night was fantastic. It was very rich, very flavorful, no issues whatsoever from start to finish. The draw was perfect. Smoke density was very high, very flavorful, very rich. And then I light up this one, you know, hoping for the same experience, and it's been a dud. I've had more problems with it than I've had good experiences. So I'm going to be ditching it shortly. And you know, just like I said earlier, I mean, it seems to be on and off. When it's on, the cigar is really good. When it's off, it's harsh and virtually flavorless. I mean, there's such a little amount of smoke that's coming through the cigar, and it's hot. that there's really no flavor coming through. And I think it's a direct result of this hole that I keep getting. And it's definitely not a beetle issue, because, you know, I would have tobacco dust falling out of the cigar when I removed it from the cellophane. I'd have holes through the wrapper, you know, things like that. I'd hear cracking and popping, but I think it's just an issue with maybe the stick missed quality control, or wasn't bunched properly, or there was just an issue with it somewhere along the line. But not very happy with it. So I guess I'm gonna have to try another one shortly. The only other CAO Brazilia I have is an Anaconda, which was given me by Paul, the CAO rep that did the event that I was last at, the CAO event. And it's just a monstrous cigar. I hate really big cigars like that, but I think I'm gonna light that one up maybe sometime this weekend when I get some extra time to just, you know, vegetate out in the yard and grab a book and a cigar and a drink and just, I don't know, call it an afternoon. But on Friday I'll be heading back over to the cigar shop. They're doing a La Gloria event there with a roller. I typically, when I go to these events, I usually only buy the product that's featured, but maybe I'll pick up another one of those CAO Brazilia box presses, and I don't know, maybe I'll do another short ashes review somewhere longer, you know, somewhere else down the line, just to see if we can, I don't know, do better than this, because obviously I've had samples that were much better, and this one's just a dud. And I don't know, just an overview. When it's on, it's very rich, very dense smoke, heavy sort of bitter chocolate, coffee flavors with some pepper through the sinuses, a very rich natural tobacco flavor core, and smooth finish, nice and creamy, easy on the palate, easy in all senses really. There really isn't any irritation in the back of my throat, nose or eyes. So good cigar when it's on, subpar cigar when it's off. So there you have it. That is the CAO Brazilia. I might try to take a couple more puffs, but it's getting extremely hot on the fingers. So maybe not, who knows. But at any rate, that's the review. That's the short ashes review. So until next time, happy smoking.